What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, All the Dialogue. I got a special guest on the line. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey world, my name is Brittany. My Instagram is at no dubs, and I was lucky enough to say that I knew Tupac, and it was short lived. I was a young girl. I was about 4 years old, but it's memories that I'll never forget. It's a feeling that I'll never forget. He loved children. He loved me, and he just was someone who was just very genuine, very family oriented. Even if you weren't his family, if he gravitated towards you, you became family, and that was shown. So it's a feeling I'll never forget. Um, it went back to Queens, 1994. That time is nostalgic. There's certain songs I hear, and certain things that I look at, and I could literally feel that day. I'll never forget. I mean, that pink turtleneck that I wore in the picture, that was from the Gap. I remember it. Those jeans were from the Gap. And I was wearing pink and white Reeboks. Like, I remember dancing on a chair in the restaurant, and he was like, "Go, Brittany, go, Brittany," like, cheering me on. And I was really getting it, like, with these little box braids. It was a happy moment. If I could go back to Queens 1994, I definitely would. Definitely would. Although the feeling is there and the nostalgia is there and the memories is there, I was a lot younger. So there's a lot more detail and a lot more things that, I can't be as vivid with. And for that, my brother, he's 8 years older than me. He was 12, 13 at the time. So he definitely has a lot more depth to the story. So I'll just pass it on to him.
Yeah, but basically, like my sister was saying, Tupac was brought around through Hatian Jack. Hatian Jack was a friend of two of my aunts. One of my aunts was kind of, they were cool, like friends, like kind of seeing each other maybe. And then she brought Hatian Jack to our restaurant. We had a family restaurant owned by my pops and my two uncles and my aunts. So Hatian Jack brings Tupac around with my two aunts. They're both sisters. And, one was with kind of, chilling with Hatian Jack, and then my other aunt, she was talking to Tupac, and we had just opened up maybe a couple months before that in Left Rack City, Jamaican and soul food restaurant. So he was kind of chilling there the whole week. But when he was in there, the whole hood was on fire. Everybody was trying to get in the restaurant, and he kind of just chilled in Mac. So I got the call. I was living in Long Island, and I got the call from my parents, because my pops owned the restaurant, that Tupac was there. So they brought us down to the restaurant. So me and my little cousin were like 5 years apart. I'm 12, 13. He's like 7, 8. And we get to the restaurant, and my mother was having a conversation with him, telling Pac a lot about us. And at the time, Pac was filming Above the Rim. And, so he was, doing a lot of shit for that. So we got to meet him. We go inside the restaurant. We talking to him. First thing he said to me was, "Be real," because he knew I lived in Long Island, predominantly white area. And he was telling me to be real around white folks and things of that nature. He signed a index card, said Tupac Shakur, be real. I still have it to this day. So then we ended up going home that day, and then, we were there all week. Go after school, we go to the restaurant. Pac would pull up in the evening time, and he'd just be there chilling.
He loved kids.
And he'd be there chilling with me and my little cousin. So my sister was like, she was real small, but she had a lot of pictures. She took a lot of the pictures. So I took pictures, but those pictures, I can't really find them. And then, like, it was a Friday, we went through at the end of the week, and Pop was like, "Yo, what y'all want to do?" I was like, "What you talking about?" He's like, "Yo, I'm going to go to the movies." I was like, "Yeah, I want to go see RoboCop 3. I'm young, 12. He was like, "All right." So it's late. And then eventually he was like, "All right, what we going to do? We're going to go see Carlito's Way." I didn't even know what that was at that time. It was late, too. It was like 11:30, 12. And then we leave, right? So Hatian Jack got the 850 BMW, and my aunt's got a 3 Series BMW. So Tupac and my aunt go into the 3 Series, and me, my cousin, and Hatian Jack, and my aunt, we get into the 850 BMW. So we're speeding, doing 100. They're speeding, doing 100. We're going to Sunrise Cinema in Long Island. That's like on the Queens-Long Island border. So we go to Sunrise Cinema. We get there. We drive through the back. Hatian Jack walks inside. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on because we in the car, so Tupac's song comes on. I get around. So we in the car dancing, doing the dances he was doing. He was laughing. He's got the window open in the other car next to us side by side. So I'm like, Pac, what's going on? What we doing? He's like, we got to just wait, fam. We got to wait. So the back door opens from the movie theater, and we walk through the back. Tupac didn't want to go through the front with all the attention. So I didn't realize that. So I was like, oh, okay. So we go through the back. We get into the theater. We just start chilling. A couple of dudes recognized him and said a few things. Like, oh, Pac, last time I saw you, you was in Poetic Justice with Janet. So, people were trying to talk to him, whatever, but we were trying to be low-key. So, we sat there in the theater. We saw Carlito's Way. During the film, I had to go to the bathroom. I was like, yo, Pac, I got to go to the bathroom. He was like, word, me too, homie. So he's like, all right, let's go outside. So we went to the back. We went right back to the back. We went outside. Me and Pac went to the back of the movie theater. We got to go take a piss. So we standing up side by side taking a piss outside in the back of the movie theater. Pretty surreal experience when you think about it now. You know what I'm saying? And then we went back into the movie, finished up the movie, and then they took us home that night. My aunt dropped us off, and then so we got to hang out with him that day, and then for like that whole month, he was just coming back and forth when he had time to the restaurant. And it was like a normal protocol for us to go to the restaurant after school and stuff like that. And then there was another time we was there at the restaurant hanging out all evening, and then he dropped us home. Him and my aunt dropped us home. And then after that, he had to go back. He had to do some shows or some shit like that. He had some stuff he had to do. So that whole month I was with him. And then after that, he kind of had to leave and all that type stuff. And then, my moms and my aunts would still see him. I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't privy to the adult nightlife type shit that they would do. But that was pretty much my experience with him in a nutshell, you know what I'm saying? It was pretty surreal when you think about it. But I remember, not too long after that, he got charged for the rape in Manhattan Hotel and shit like that. That was around that time as well. So, and then things started to go downhill. So it was real personal for us, because he was such a good friend of the family. And we spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of good conversations. He talked to me. I asked him a ton of questions about, my main understanding of his career is Juice, the movie Juice. That was my favorite thing. And I used to question him so much about that movie. Little acting things he did, when he fell off the roof, the stuntman roles, all the things that he did in that movie. He shared that with me. He shared a lot about Poetic Justice with my family and I. He shared his relationship with Janet Jackson, how she's kind of standoffish and stuff like that, how she changed her number after the movie was being done. So he shared a lot of that stuff with us. But yeah, that was pretty much our experience in a nutshell though, man.
Did you see any friction between Tupac and Hatian Jack after that whole Ayanna Jackson incident? Because it's well known that Tupac felt like Hatian Jack had something to do with that whole incident.
Yeah, I would have to talk to my mom about that. I didn't pick nothing up. I was way too young to even see anything. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know the capacity of their relationship. Hatian Jack and Pac. But I just wouldn't be able to tell you. It doesn't surprise me that he would have something to do with anything that has transpired after that. It wouldn't be surprising to me. Just the nature of the way Hatian Jack carried himself. That timing, the time of the setting in the '90s, what was going on in those days. None of that would be surprising to me. But I can't tell you for sure if there was any type of problems that were pretty much brewing at that point. I know my mom and my aunt, they kept in touch with Pac a lot after, I seen them. They used to go out to certain spots in the city and Pac would be there, and then Pac would always invite them to wherever he's at, and they'd hang out and have a good time. So I'm not sure if Hatian Jack was still in the mix, but it wouldn't be surprising if something had happened by that time.
As a kid, what is some of your memories with Hatian Jack? How did Hatian Jack carry himself back then?
Well, I mean, it was 90s, you know what I'm saying? He was, classic, carried himself kind of like how, classic 1990s drug dealers, gold tooth, fly car, clean, he carried himself like the persona of like a hustler in those times. Rappers and hustlers had that same kind of look. So you knew he had money. You knew he was into something. Was a nice guy. Wasn't a bad guy. He had a good relationship with my family. But he just typical 1990s young guys trying to be fresh, fly in the industry. If you had to ask me what he was doing, he'd either be a rapper or a hustler. You know what I'm saying? And I was around a lot of guys like that at that age. I had a lot of people in the hood that looked up to my family or had relationships with my family. Being in Left Rack City, we had a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? So we had a lot of interactions with those type of people. You know what I'm saying? My aunts, they were in their 20s at the time, and my aunts they were beautiful women, and they had a lot of charisma, and they were always in the mix of action when it came to certain parties, certain shows. They knew a lot of people coming from the same neighborhood in Left Rack City and Brooklyn. They knew a lot of those type of people. So I used to always see guys like that around. But yeah, that's pretty much how Hatian Jack carried himself. Yeah, I was exposed to a lot. Like, as a young kid, like my aunt, it's funny because I got my mother, right? Brittany and I's mom. My mom has two sets of siblings. She has a father that has two daughters, and she has her mother, who she grew up with, that has three daughters. So my grandfather, his two daughters, my mom's sisters on his side, they're the ones that were dating kind of Hatian Jack and Tupac. And they were young. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like in a relationship, but they were kind of together at that time. So they had that relationship. But on my mother's side, on my grandmother's side, my grandmother's other two daughters, my aunts, one of them married Supercat, the reggae artist legend Supercat. And Supercat came up in the 90s as a big reggae artist with Shabba Ranks and Buju Banton and Ninja Man and all those type guys. And reggae was getting big in America at that time in the early 90s. And through him, he worked with Columbia Records. We met a lot of different industry people. So I had normal interaction with individuals like that. You understand what I'm saying? People in the industry, celebrities, basketball players, they would all be in the same circle based on who my aunts knew. So it was normal for me. What's interesting also is my aunt that was kind of seeing Hatian Jack at the time, I would say about in 1988, maybe about 4 to 5 years prior, she was dating Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? So that just shows you a little bit of the history of like the kind of people the kind of circle they were in. She was dating Mike Tyson in 88, 89. Mike Tyson was around our family for like a month at that point. Prior to him losing that fight in Japan to Buster Douglas. So I got to meet Mike Tyson at age 8, 9 years old. I'm chilling with him a lot. Came to my house, Christmas parties, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a lot of exposure to a lot of celebrities and things like that. You understand what I'm saying? So a couple years later, we meet Pac on a similar level. So
that's crazy, yo, because Mike Tyson had a friendship with Tupac and Hatian Jack.
Yeah, all same circles, man. Everybody knew the same people. Everybody had the same circle, It was a small town. It was a small world, my aunt, they used to, they were young. They dated a lot of drug dealers and stuff like that knew Mike, and had issues with Mike as well. So, there was a lot of that I knew about. Some of them had issues with Pac as well. So yeah, there was a lot of overlap, bro, in the relationships. A lot of overlap in the relationships, that's for sure. But that just shows you the type of people my aunt were. Like, they were just young, man, but they were like highly sought after, and they were cool, and they had a good time. They lived good lives when they were young. And, they was in the prime of hip hop and in the prime of New York City and the emergence of certain industries and things of that nature. They were right in the center of that. You know what I'm saying? I had 4 aunts that were bad as hell. I mean, I remember being a kid walking with them, and we used to get stopped. Men used to try to stop them all the time. Like, I got, I told you, one of them married Supercat. He's a reggae artist. My other aunt on my grandfather's side, she dated Mike Tyson. They met in a club, and then she ended up, that's the same one that was kind of.
I got pics with that on him on my page too. I think the baby pic with me and Mike Tyson is on the page also.
Yeah, and she's the same one that ended up that was kind of seeing Hatian Jack, and then her sister, used to date a few drug dealers back in the day in the hood and stuff like that, and then she ended up with Tupac when Tupac came around. She was the one kind of seeing him, so they were in the mix, man. They were definitely, you think they would be somebody too, you know what I'm saying?
So I want to go back a little because you just made a comment and you said Tupac had some issues with some drug dealers. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, there was a lot of overlap with a lot of dudes. Cause like I said, they had a lot of drug dealer circles. You know what I mean? In those days, it was, there was a lot of, known drug dealers, dudes that was getting it, certain cliques and stuff like that. But they definitely did have, some of them did have issues with Pac. And some of them had issues with Mike Tyson too. I remember that vividly. I don't really know exactly the issues, but yeah, there was a lot of that happening. Definitely. And then Pac was like coming into the town, and it was, you stepping on turfs. It was a lot of that shit happening too. You know what I'm saying? He came into New York and he kind of shut the shit down. It kind of imposed on a lot of local dudes, local hustlers in Left Rack City at the time. You know what I'm saying? I know my aunt, she had a lot of issues with the fact that she was kind of seen with Pac, but at the same time, she had previous relationships with people that had that wasn't really feeling that. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of that type of shit happening. I know that vividly as a fact. I remember individuals that my aunt was dealing with. They had off and on relationships, and he caught wind that she was chilling with Pac. You know what I'm saying? And he went off. He went crazy. And he's a known dude in the game. As far as what he do. At the time. And when he found out, he had a problem. Like there was thought that he might even kill Pac. You know what I'm saying? That's how real it was, because he was a straight up gangster. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say I remember that vividly. Like yeah, there was definitely issues there. I don't know if you ever heard of Darryl Tyler. He go by the name of D-Nice. His name rang bells in the 90s. He was convicted in 2003 of drug kingpin and racketeer charges. He's currently doing a life sentence somewhere in, I think, Alabama. He might get paroled. He was like a really close family friend of ours, and he dated my aunt as well. And, I know he had issues with Pac. I don't know the nature of the relationship he had one-on-one with Pac, but he wasn't feeling that shit when Pac was around. I know that for sure. But yeah, if you Google him, he used to run Brooklyn, Pink Houses, Brownsville, Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? His name rings bells. He's got history out there. You could Google his whole profile and see exactly what he was about. Yeah, and cats today, they know who cats, cats are, people at, Brooklyn, they know what time it is. OGs, they know who D is. Everybody know who Nice is.
So D-Nice's issue with Tupac was over a female.
I don't want to like quote that, but I know that he wasn't feeling a lot of shit that was happening when he wasn't around. Because he knew that my aunt was with Pac. You know what I'm saying? So he knew that shit, and he was turning the crib upside down when he found out that shit. So yeah, he wasn't. It was some shit like, yo, Pac can't come around no more type shit, especially if D here. Because D about that life, you know what I'm saying? But D was somebody you don't want to play with, though. You know what I mean? Like I know like D had issues with Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson ain't want no smoke. And I know that for sure. Like he ain't want no smoke. Yeah, but that was the circle we was around, man. We were young, and and I called him uncle. You know what I mean? Like my uncle type shit. Even D now, I write him time to time. We're like family, D was like, I got tremendous recollection. D, I was his nephew, you know what I mean? Like not a blood nephew, but D we love each other. You understand what I'm saying? That's the OG. Like my interaction with him is ridiculous. Like even like even like 10 years later, me and D had a different kind of relationship prior to him getting that life sentence. And I shared a lot with him. He put me onto a lot of shit. This is like 2001, 2000. And I was coming into my adulthood, 18, 19, and he was showing me the game. And he was doing his thing from like an industry perspective. Like he was moving into music and stuff. And it was just surreal, the things I was looking at 18, 19 years old, and just the status that he had, and just, you know, it was crazy. It was a crazy experience.